welcome to Property Quorum. Bienvenue, welcome once again to another Property Quorum. As usual, we have the stalwarts, Hamish McLay of Dutch Convey, Gilsenan of Root Home, Juliet Baboolal of gunnercooke LLP, and today's special guest is Barbara Cação. Close, vaguely. Memory spanner of goldfish. Once again, I do apologize. Has written articles recently talking about the very topic which we are talking about today, which is your mortgage is in hand. What could possibly go wrong? Thank you very much for coming, Barbara. You're most welcome. But as usual, I'm going to throw Hamish straight under the bus without further ado. Hamish, what could possibly go wrong?
Well, I mean, what we have is a situation which arrives within the property industry. It's not just a matter of something financial. This is particularly important, of course, when it's residential, but still a very, very important matter for the investor. There's a lot of emotion attached. So it's not just expenditure of money that we're speaking about. It's emotions that we get involved with it. And we get to a point in time and we think, yes, we are getting there. However, it's not all like a nice little trip through the Bluebell Wood. It's not always that easy.
If only it was. Juliet, what could possibly go wrong?
So here you're a buyer, you've got a mortgage offer, and you think you're home and dry. What you need to understand is that your mortgage offer has a lifespan, so it will expire. And so if there are things you need to satisfy within a specific time frame, you need to do that before your mortgage offer expires. The offer is usually based on evaluation, etc., and things go out of date. So lenders put expiration dates on offers so that they can ensure that the offer that they provided or the terms they provided match the valuation and other underwriting things that they've got. So that's the first thing. Don't assume you've got a mortgage offer and it's it doesn't have a lifespan. It does expire. There are also special conditions within that offer, and that's where people like Barbara come in, where those special conditions need to be satisfied before you can actually draw down. So it's so essential that you find the right broker and you have the right conditions within those special conditions, because if you can't satisfy them, you're not going to be able to draw down. So that's another thing that a buyer needs to be wary of. And then there's a whole host of other things. For example, is your name correct on the mortgage offer? Does it have the right conditions? Is it the right mortgage offer for you? So those are things that one needs to consider when they have a mortgage offer, when a mortgage offer is being prepared for them.
I feel the scales falling from my eyes. Is nothing set in stone? I thought once you've got the hallowed achievement of a mortgage offer, that everything else would be relatively smooth sailing.
It's not. It's absolutely not. I mean, anyone who has obtained a mortgage offer in their lifetime will tell you, unless you've got, and again, we bang on this about having the right team. So your lawyer will go through that mortgage offer and explain to you exactly what conditions need to be satisfied. Your broker will advise you beforehand, if it's a development or whatever it is. A lot of lenders, for example, on development finance want a build contract. I had someone the other day say to me, look, I do everything on a handshake. I haven't got a bill contract. I'm like, unfortunately, if you don't get a bill contract put together, you're not going to get the money. So it's not just about mortgage. Getting the mortgage offer is great because it means you've potentially passed all the credit checks, etc. But there's still a way to go. So until that money is in your solicitor's bank account and you're ready to complete, you're ready to do what you need to do, it's released to you, you're not home and dry.
Barbara, welcome. Special conditions? My goodness, that sounds very onerous. Can you tell me more?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I would say when we talk about mortgages, I would even, include other types of development finance, like bridging loans, heavy refurbishment loans in particular, and ground-up builds, because they go through sort of a very similar process. And when we speak about mortgage offers, Some clients think that when they have secured a mortgage decision in principle or a decision in principle, an agreement in principle for a bridging loan, that it's then smooth sailing, but that is only when the journey starts. And that is principally, before, the full application, before underwriting has even got to work, before evaluation has been done, and the client needs to understand that a mortgage in principle or an agreement in principle is really just to say from what the lender has been told before anyone can x-ray the borrower's profile or the property conditions. Before that has happened, this is, say, subject to valuation and to underwriting. That is all they would offer in a decision in principle. So what our job as brokers is to make sure in the first place that we help the client obtain a robust decision in principle, and that means that we have to check certain conditions with lenders upfront. So, and for that we always encourage clients to be as transparent as possible. I had a question the other day from a prospective client, and she said, I have a property, it's a leasehold property, but it has got an absent freeholder. Do you think would the lenders be happy as long as there is an indemnity policy in place? So I think it's very good that she raised that question. At that stage, I'm not a solicitor, but I can only tell her that most lenders, yes, they would be willing to lease on a leasehold property with an absent freeholder if there is a suitable indemnity policy in place. But it's not something that we can fully guarantee from the start. It's just we can just provide guidance and highlight what the steps that would need to be done, and obviously that this elevates sort of the risk of a deal, the deal, say, potentially not progressing. But it's this kind of information that as brokers we look for even before we reach out to lenders, because that enables us also to choose the right lenders up front.
Wow. Chris, are all these deals built on shifting sands?
It feels that way a lot of the time. The challenge that you have, and that Barbara's already highlighted, is that it's for the consumer or the client, it's a complex and it's an unknown process. Many buyers, most people who buy a house, they will probably only buy a few houses in their lifetime as they upscale. They may not necessarily be investing. And even for someone who's investing and using institutional lending at a large scale, it's still a very complex process and it's still very onerous. So for the average person, not knowing what to expect, I can fully understand, and the position where they think they've got that decision in principle, they think they're away. Then they think they're good to go, and knowing that, and having it explained to them that level of detail that's required, and then them getting their head around it, and then allocating the time, and knowing that they have to do it on a time frame, that's very challenging for a lot of people. So having someone on your team, on your side, like Barbara, who can actually handhold you through that process and tell you what to expect, when to expect it, and some of the pitfalls that may be coming your way, that's very important. Most people that they feel that, well, they've got that decision in principle, then they're driven by fear that might be taken away from them. So working with someone who can help them and handhold them through that process is very important. And as Barbara's already mentioned, having that transparency, going both ways, really, that's very important too.
Hamish, it seems like we need a Reiki practitioner and a soothsayer as part of the team in this now, just to maintain our stress level.
Well, it's I think it's possibly terminology. What we have, and of course we hear this term spoken about all the time, professionals, but there are professionals and there are professionals. And what we are finding sort of over time, certainly us as a sort of group within our Quorum here, is that providing we've got the essential ingredients sort of going on, we ourselves as individuals, when we're trying to go down these routes, we don't need to be the experts. However, we need to have confidence in the person that we're sort of dealing with.
Yeah.
And therefore, even something as basic as we actually sort of do in terms of our particular sort of work, which is to support the industry and going out and sort of getting searches. A little bit more about this tomorrow, actually. It needs to be somebody who knows what they're doing, because very, very often there are certain queries that come up and you need those queries answered. So you need to go to the right person. So you need, right the way through it, we need a collection of professionals that link together the moving parts within everything that's sort of going on. It doesn't go like clockwork. It never goes like clockwork because it wasn't designed that way. Because we are all individuals. We are, and as I said right at the very, very start, we can get emotionally involved in what's going on. And therefore, if we get the team around us, if we get the legal sort of background there, if we get the person that's advising us on the loan, if we get the person that's picked as the right property in the first place, so all of these things will work together. However, we need to be careful as to who we pick. We couldn't go far wrong with the team we've got here. However, not everybody is actually sort of cohesive and helps the situation along as well as we do, or they do. Actually, the other folk, because they do all the hard work. It's easy as far as I'm concerned.
Barbara, it seems that a lot of this could raise my own personal insecurities through the roof. What can we do to make sure that we satisfy staff in advance? Because preparation is key here. It's all very well building the team, but if you're not giving them the right information, nothing will move.
Yes, that's a very good point, Gareth. And as I said before, transparency is key, but also you have to realize that what the client doesn't know, he doesn't know. So I think asking the right questions is key, and also encouraging the client to think things through. To give you an example, I had an international resident buy-to-let investor, and he wanted to buy a buy-to-let property in the UK with a gifted deposit from his father-in-law in Pakistan, and found a lender. He was okay with that, but I said to when we spoke, discussed the whole process, I said to the client, you will have to fill in a source of wealth form, and also your father-in-law may have to declare where he got his funds from. And the client ended up saying that he was not comfortable, and for cultural reasons, I'm sure there was nothing sort of uncomfortable, fishy about it. He was just not comfortable to ask his father-in-law about, the source of his wealth, which, he had accumulated through his honest work. It was just not something that he was prepared to do. So to really, as you said, Hamish, each case is different, and it's all, very depending on persons, on individuals. It's important to really understand the client situation and to think things through from the start.
Juliet, we bang on and on and on about building the right team, but it appears to me that sometimes you need to look a little bit deeper than just whether or not someone's got the right qualifications.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, one of the key things that Barbara said, it's about disclosure and transparency. And, I've said it before, you know what you know and you don't know what you don't know. And just because someone's labeled a solicitor, for example, doesn't mean they have the specific expertise in certain things. And one of the things I do when I ask the lenders is I do risk analysis. So I'm then looking at, the issues. And if a solicitor knows his work, he'll package it in such a way and he'll tell me what the issues are. I can take instructions and we can decide how to proceed with the lender. If they don't tell me, I will sniff out the issue. And what that means is that potentially amended mortgage offer, and it may mean that you'll end up with less money than you thought you were going to have, which can put you in a bit of a tricky position because you're going to have to come up with the shortfall. So the reality is, if you go to the right professional up front, although it may cost you a little bit more, they will do that risk analysis with you, and they will turn you in the right direction. They look at the mortgage offer as well and tell you whether it works. And the other thing that's key, all good and well to have a mortgage offer, all good and well to complete, but you need to understand the terms of your mortgage offer. So if you've got, for example, a fixed rate for 2 years and then it goes variable, you need to understand what your exposure is. So you need, when you go to your broker, you might need to have some financial planning. What's your exit? Are you going to be able to afford, if the rates go up, are you going to be able to afford your mortgage payments? If it's a bridge and it's a 6-month bridge, what happens after that time? Because most times, if you get into default, the interest, it's quite high. So, understand the aftermath of a mortgage offer, which is why, to me, it's the day in the life of your ownership of a property using finance and understanding from start to finish. It's like a story, but if you understand how that story plays out, it gives you the best chance to actually succeeding in the property game.
Chris, is it too early to celebrate when you get the mortgage offer?
Really, yes. Most people will, but yeah.
But in your game, you're spending half your time scouting around to find suitable properties. Is it any easier for you now you've developed that team of people that you can rely on to support you?
It does get easier with the right people around you, yes, and we do keep banging on about the right team around you.
I'm sorry, I think it's worth it's a theme worth returning to, because it seems to be that if you pick cheap, you pick twice in many cases, or 3 times.
You buy cheap, you buy twice. Yeah, I live and breathe by that mantra, and still trip up in the streets over it from time to time. But yeah, it's a good lesson to know. But yes, it is challenging. It is time consuming, factoring in the time that you need to spend using institutional lending. And if you're doing it at scale, then you definitely need the right people around you who can give you the right type of guidance. You're going to need that anyway. But understanding those time frames, understanding that you need to do certain things and have certain documentation prepared by certain time frames, that's very important to anyone who's buying a property using any sort of institutional lending.
Hamish, as per usual, I'm going to throw it over to you just to take us home.
Well, it's one of those powerful lessons, isn't it? That everybody who's actually spoken today is quite seriously involved. There's a need to speak to Chris. There's a need to speak to your property advisor, or the developer there who's found the particular. How long is it going to take to get this thing sorted out? That is absolutely sort of critical. You then need the legal the legal side of things are going to ensure that there isn't a risk there. But we've got this strange situation, all these powerful, it's the TA form, get this information up front. How on earth? Now, it's all very well knowing that the house has got solar panels, or it's got off-site drainage, or off-mains drainage. However, the source of funds is critical. I mean, so there's so many little bits and pieces. To be quite honest, I think if people realised what was going on and what the experts were working out on their behalf, they'd be a little bit more worried to start off with. However, get those experts around you. What a difference it makes.
In my uneducated perspective, I think you'd be a fool to take this sort of nuttiness on unless you've got people around you who can advise you correctly. It only remains for me to thank Hamish McLay, Search Convey, Juliet Baboolal, Chris Gilsenan, and of course, Barbara, thank you so much for finding time today to come and visit us. I do hope you come again. Thank you one and all for watching this. We are Property Quorum. We happen to be every Thursday at around 10 o'clock. Do come along. We've got plenty more to give and lots more to discuss. So until next time, thank you very much for being at Property Quorum.